A new report has surfaced. It says that ISIS is no longer pursuing large attacks, complex attacks, and is instead looking to use individual lone wolf actors. What does that mean? What's that mean to you? Stay tuned. All right, I'm back. So, the National Counterterrorism Center issued a report, I guess the end of December. Washington Times is breaking it today, saying that they've done an assessment and that ISIS is no longer pursuing large 9/11 style attacks. Did they ever really conduct one? But is instead looking to use social media and inspire lone wolf attackers who create havoc. All right, man, there's a couple different ways we could go with that. Let's get some better lighting going on here. There we go. First thing is, it means ISIS is being degraded, which is a good thing for us, right? It means that they don't have the ability to conduct a large attack because the intelligence agencies and special operations forces, et cetera, of the West are just hammering them so bad that they can't get their act together and plan and coordinate large-scale attacks. So that's a win for our side. Guerrilla warfare is warfare of the weak. Strong opponents don't have to engage in guerrilla warfare. They'll just go fight. They don't have to do the hit and run, stick and move kind of techniques. And terrorism is really a tactic of the weak. And so, good, we're making progress against ISIS. But what's that mean to you? I don't know. You know, does the threat to you go down or up if that's the case? The lone wolf attacker is now going to be the norm, if you will. Might go up, is what I'm thinking. Because here's, just me, right? I don't go to big places, big malls, big theaters, big Wall Street, things like that, where if one was going to plan a large-scale attack, you want bang for the buck, right? So if I'm going to risk everything and I'm going to put in all these logistics together and bring all these people together and get them trained and go do this big, something for Allah, I want it to be impressive if I'm a terrorist. And so you're going to hit a place that's kind of important and has a lot of people in it, I would think, right? I don't go to those places, so that's cool. However, if you are starting a technique, a program where you're inspiring your, these guys, right, to just go out there and take action, well, heck, it could be some jihadi dude or dudette in small town America. Right? Where I live, outside of where I live, that kind of thing. And so in that instance, I think maybe the threat could go up a little bit. I think the most successful, and I guess it wasn't really small scale though, was it? The Mumbai raid. If you go back and do some research on the Mumbai raid, which was in India, there were a couple groups of guys with AKs running simultaneously through the city. So I guess that's a large one. They actually had Pakistani help on that one. The German truck deal that just happened, right? Some jihadi took a truck, his truck, stole a truck, I don't know, big truck, drove it into a huge crowd of people and just mowed them down. Yeah, that's pretty effective. So what's that mean to you? What should you do about that? Well, you got to keep your head on a swivel, right? You have to be aware of what's going on around you all the time when you're outside of your house, or your yard or whatever. Don't be walking around in public with your face buried in your phone. That's zero situational awareness. You have to maintain situational awareness. You have to be prepared to fight or flee, right? What is that? Run, hide, or fight? I'm not hiding. I'm going to try and get away, number one. Number two, going to fight. That's me. Not hiding? Not hiding from a bad guy stalking around with an AK, right? That strikes me as a really bad move. And so, are you trained? Are you armed? Let me reverse that. Are you armed? Are you trained? You don't want to become part of the problem, right? If somebody shows up in some area where you are and starts, aloha snack bar. If you're going to take that shot, you don't want to shoot the 7-year-old girl, right? So are you trained? If you are carrying a firearm for self-defense, you need to be trained. And you need to understand what your limitations are. You don't want to become part of the problem. And then something else, shots fired. Every cop in the world starts showing up. You better be real careful about how you're acting with a firearm in your hand. Probably not a good move, right? And so there's a whole training in that's going on. Head on a swivel, be prepared to respond. Know where your exits are. I said I would flee first, and I would. If I'm with my family, my priority is to get them out of here. But you got to know which way to go. That movie that I told you, we went to see Rogue One, I don't know, a week or so ago, my wife and I. The first thing we did was notice the two main exits. There are other exits in that room, but the two main exits. And I said, if something happens, we're going out that one. And she'd already picked that one also. Why was that? It was the one that nobody came in. People have their herd mentality. They revert back to what they know. And so if they came in this door, they're going to go out that door. And everybody filed into the theater through the one door. So we were going to go out the other door, thinking everyone's going to run to the door they came in. Big jumble in the crowd. Praise the Father. Of course, nothing happened, right? But we had a plan to get out of there. You should always have a plan how you're going to get out of wherever you are. First aid. Man, first aid's important, You need to know how to take care of yourself, your loved ones, and everybody else. You can be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I did a video on this a while ago called Response to a Terrorist Attack, and that's pretty much what I covered, right? Be alert, try to avoid targets, but if they're doing the lone wolf thing, it's kind of hard to avoid targets because he could go into a grocery store, the bad guy. I think that in America, if terrorists start, going a little bit more active, it won't be with explosives. It's too hard to get explosives here in America. Not like the Middle East, and to an extent Europe because it's so close to the Middle East. And so I don't think you really have to worry about IEDs or car bombs or something like that. But let's face it, it's real easy to get a firearm in America. And it always will be, so banning guns isn't the solution. And so any kind of evil terrorist attack is probably going to involve firearms, and I would submit high-capacity firearms. If they've been over there and trained to, do their bit for their false god, they're probably really familiar with AKs, and so they'll probably, I would think, use an AK, here in a terrorist attack. They have a choice of all these different firearms to use. We know the M4 is better than the AK, but they're familiar with the AK. I think they'll use an AK. And so what if it is a couple guys and they drop an AK? Do you know how to work an AK? That's why I bought my AK, to train my family on, to train them how to use, load, fire, reduce stoppage, put it on safe, take it off safe, all those things with an AK, so that if something happened and they happened to pick up a dropped AK, they could, operate it. So there's something. Lone wolves scare the heck out of the government because it's really hard to control them or predict them. If somebody is out there blasting hate from the mosque, I've never been in a mosque, but what, do they have a pulpit or something in there where go kill the infidel, go kill the infidel, where that guy does that? If he's putting that out to 2,000 people a week, and then there's videos and there's this, that, and the other thing, and all these people are watching it, how do you pick the 5 guys that aren't even related to each other that are going to go do crazy things. It's very hard to counter. So there's a lack of effectiveness on their part compared to a big plot on the one hand, but on the other hand, they're really hard to catch beforehand. Because you can bet good money that our government has stopped a lot of terrorist attacks that you'll never hear about. Because they were big plots, which is why ISIS probably isn't doing big plots anymore, because every time they plan one, it gets shut down. And so it scares the government, and so what's that mean? They're not just going to roll over, suck their thumb, and go, okay, well, there's nothing we can do about these lone wolves. Oh, no, no, no. They're going to use this to get some more measures passed. You know, we need to be more intrusive. We need to have more algorithms that are studying what you look up on Google, what sites you go to, what words you use, yada, yada, yada. And then the argument will be, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to be afraid of? If they're looking at you, what do you care? Yeah, now maybe if it's a good government. I don't know. I don't have the solution for the government on that. I wish them the best. Their job is to keep America safe. I want them to do that. A racist guy named Louis Beam wrote a thing on, what's that called? Leaderless resistance. And that's exactly what ISIS is trying to morph into right now. Leaderless resistance. And it was a pretty good piece if you can get through the, you know, the hate and this venom that comes out of the guy. But if you read actually what he's saying, it's kind of interesting. If I can find a link to it after I post this, I'll put it down in the not the comments, the description of this video. But you can Google Louis Beam Leaderless Resistance, and I'm sure you can find it. And then you'll be on a list for going to that website. You know, probably, whatever. Tell them Pastor Joe sent you. But it's interesting to read, and it's interesting to see that, you know, this concept has evolved. I mean, Beam didn't originate it. He just kind of put it together on paper, I guess. I read it a long time ago. I need to go back and reread it. I hope I'm not telling you to read something that's awful. I do that sometimes with movies. I tell people, oh yeah, it's a good movie. I saw that 20 years ago. And then I watch it again. I'm like, I'm horrified. I like that movie. You know, as the Father continues to work on our heart, we change, right? I don't speak the way I used to speak. I don't think the way I used to think. You know, put off the old man, put on the new man, and we're going on a tangent there. But at one time, I was considering going for a PhD in the terrorism field, and I was starting to kind of study things, and I was going to kind of focus on U.S. terrorism, and so I was looking into all these different things. And that's how I found that article, but it was pretty good at the time, so I hope it's still good. I'll go look at it. Anyway, leaderless resistance, lone wolf attacks that are potentially dangerous to you and yours. Keep your head on a swivel, be armed, be trained, know first aid, have an escape plan, and you know, the more you start living a simpler life, which I'm yearning for the more I live here with this. I mean, I love the electricity, I love the heat, but man, my wife said something to me the other day here. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but she said, you know, you don't go out very much. Yeah, I learned once I moved to Shofar Mountain, I don't need to go out and be consuming. I don't need to go to the restaurant, the store, the whatever. Yeah, I went and saw a movie with my wife. I took her out to dinner. But we're not living that way anymore. I spend days, don't even leave High Prairie Acres, and so that's cool. But, you know, to the extent you can, limit your exposure to where you think a target is. I'll tell you this, profiling. Yeah, you should profile. You know, when I used to run, I haven't run for a while in the woods, but when I used to run through the woods, I know, I'm a survival instructor, I know that the vast majority of snakes in America are non-poisonous. I also know that of the poisonous snakes, getting bit by most of them isn't really going to hurt you badly. I mean, you know, you're not going to die. It's not like getting bit by a cobra or a black mamba or something. And yet still, when I'm running and there's a snake across the path, my heart jumps up and I take one of those mighty, you know, arabesque, woo, leaps through the air to get over that thing. I'm like, oh, there's a snake. I pay attention to him when I see him. Because, hey, you don't know. Could be a rattlesnake, right? Then when those weirdo goth kids were going around shooting people in schools and stuff, since that time, when I see some kid dressed in all black, you know, kid, that now goes up to about 30, You know, the black pants, the boots, the long black trench coat. Black trench coat's a key, man. I key on those people. I notice them. I watch them. I'm prepared for them to do something, you know, pull something out of that coat. They bear watching, right? Because it just seems that a lot of those weird kids that went on those shootings were like into the dyed black goth stuff, right? Well, I noticed Muslims. You know what? The last time some Christian jumped up and yelled Aloha snack bar and started shooting people in a crowded place was, I don't know. I don't know when. I don't think he was a Christian, but who's that guy? Dylan, whatever. I think his name was Dylan. Carolina, went into an all-black church, killed a bunch of people, shot a bunch of people. That guy. I know there's maybe a conspiracy theory in that. Put that over here for a second. If you're in an all-black church and some squirrely white dude walks in, you need to be on him. You know, that black church was politically correct, and they were afraid to say, this isn't right, something's different here. Let's go find out about it. You two big brothers, let's go talk to this brother and see what's up with him, right? They didn't do that. Same token, you know, if you're somewhere and somebody's obviously out of place, don't avert your eyes and think, oh, I'm being racist or judgmental or whatever. No, that snake's crawling across the path that you're running on, jump over it, right? Pay attention. And so, yeah, I watch Muslims when I see them. I don't want anybody in this country who doesn't want to be part of this country. You know, don't come here and try and change it. Don't come here and try and implement Sharia law. If you like Sharia law, go back to where you just came from. Have it there, that's fine. I don't care if you have Sharia law where you came from. I don't care. But here, we don't have Sharia law, and we don't want it. And if you want it, go away. Here we do things a certain way. We have an American culture, and unfortunately that culture is being allowed to change. We sponsored I guess I'm going on a rant now. We sponsored a Norwegian exchange student several years ago when my youngest daughter was still in high school. And we didn't sponsor her, actually, truth in advertising. She was sponsored by somebody else who wasn't really doing their job, so she hung out at our house all the time. And we got to know her pretty well. And she came from a very well-off family in Norway. And she was talking about how it was no longer safe, like, you know, in Oslo for young women to walk around at night. She was shocked when her host family told her, and then we reiterated to her, hey, yeah, no, you can't walk around this town here at 1 o'clock in the morning by yourself. And it's like, yeah, it's not like that in Norway except in Oslo. Now, because of all the immigrants coming in, they're raping women. I mean, it is what it is. And Norway is losing their culture. Germany is losing their culture. Why? Because they got too politically correct. They were so, you know, it was the reaction to World War II, right? And they felt bad like the boogeyman, and so they just rolled over, and now they're just letting their country be rolled over. And Europe is in trouble. Europe better, you know, reach down and grab something and figure out who they are and what they want to save of Europe. Do you want to be Europe or do you want to be North Africa? I mean, what do you want to be? Same thing in America. If you want to come to America as a legal immigrant and you want to be part of America, cool. Come on if you got something to contribute. But don't come here and try and just keep the ways of where you came from. That wasn't working for you there. That's why you're here. Be an American. Wear jeans. T-shirts, wave a flag. All right. Hey, y'all be careful. I'll see you out there.